we can get used to our normality being at a high stress level and believing that that is what normality is.
What we all want in the Western world is here's 5 things that you can do to stop stress. Well, the reality is your 5 things will be different to mine.
Welcome to the pod, Nicola Elliott. She is the founder of NEOM Wellbeing, one of the biggest wellness brands in the UK. And now she's the author of 4 Ways to Wellbeing, where she breaks down how we can get better sleep, less stress, more energy, and a mood boost. What you're doing right now is setting you up for 10 years' time. What you do in 10 years' time is setting you up for next 10 years. And so that's the same with stress. It's wearing and tearing away at you, just as old age does, but stress does the same thing. And you're going to notice it at a time where it will be so much harder to come back from
Totally. Your body understands what feeling calm feels like. You have an internal blueprint that your body can then
coming back to.
Exactly. It's really important for your body to be reminded in this fast-paced world what good looks like, because if your body understands what feeling calm feels like, then you have a sort of blueprint that keeps your barometer working, essentially.
I'm Radhi Devlukia, and on my podcast, A Really Good Cry, we embrace the real, the messy, and the beautiful, providing a space for raw, unfiltered conversations that celebrate vulnerability and allow you to tune in to learn, connect, and find comfort together. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you everyone for listening and coming back again to this podcast. Have such an amazing guest today. For anyone who doesn't know her, her name is Nicola. And when you come to my house, basically there's either a scent from them. It's called NEOM, by the way. There's a scent from them or a candle always burning in this house. And there are so many reasons why I love it. But first, I want everyone to understand NEOM a little bit more and understand you. So give me a breakdown of how NEOM started and what brought you to this incredible company.
Thank you for the intro. I love that. Shall I do you a 2-minute intro?
Please,
because
any kind.
We are now, 18 years old as a brand. So the story is pretty long, which is funny because I think, certainly in the States, people see us as a baby brand, but we are absolutely not a baby brand. We've been around since 2005.
Yeah, I remember seeing your candles I always tell people this, NEOM was my candles where I would go to like John Lewis and the more expensive places and it would be the special gift that I would get myself or someone else. Like I wouldn't necessarily even buy it for me. I'd maybe buy it for my mom or buy it for someone. But it was for me, a luxury candle to get because of how quality it was.
It's interesting because we actually get a lot of people who come to NEOM because it's been bought for them as a gift. So that's always nice. So the story goes, it was 2005. I'd worked as a journalist for 8 years. And I'd done celebrity, which, was really big back then. So I was doing covers in New York, LA, London, and it was brilliant, really good fun. But lived on, very little sleep, 3 canapés a night, 30, anyway, depending on that, but lived on canapés. And was not looking after my health and well-being. And I think we forget it wasn't a word. Wellness wasn't a word that we used, not in the context that we use it now at all back then. There were no health food shops. It wasn't the norm to go to the gym. I mean, life was incredibly different. It's really weird. Yeah. And so I started actually having really bad anxiety, which similarly wasn't a word that was used in the same way that it is now. So that was even scarier because it was like, what's happening? A panic attack wasn't called a panic attack. So I started with anxiety, and funnily now when I look back, I think we talk about anxiety generally coming on when something's happened in your life and there's been some awful event, and there wasn't any awful event. I just was doing too much.
Yeah, you're burnt out.
Yeah, I was burnt out. And so I remember my mum saying, you're just not looking after yourself. It's nothing more than that. You're just not looking after yourself. You don't see the sunlight. You don't move. What did you eat for dinner last night?
Mums.
Yeah, pasta pesto for like the 4th night in a row. And so it was a case of just looking after myself a bit better and getting the basics right. And so as part of that, I became interested. Well, I actually, first of all, sort of went into the health food shop at the top of the road in Islington where I lived. I mean, it was really crusty. I forget the name of it now, but it certainly wasn't Fresh and Wild or Air1 by any standards. It was like, there was 2 bananas in a basket outside. The shop was 95% nuts because that's all health food shops were in those days. But at the back, there was this kind of really little essential oil collection. And I did buy a bag of nuts and a banana. And I also bought, some essential oils and thought, this is kind of interesting. And was just very open-minded about how I was going to look after myself. I actually went on a course, a Whole Foods course as well. So became interested in nutrition and lastly trained in both of those things. But it was about me, nothing more complex than me realizing that I had reached burnout. It was having these really awful effects on me, and I just had to look after myself. And again, we talk about that in a much more, thoughtful way now, I suppose, in 2023. But back then, we just didn't. And so, as part of the messing around with the essential oils and tinkering in my bathroom and creating blends, my friends all asked me to create blends for them. And as I looked around, I remember thinking, my sister needed help with sleep. My then boyfriend needed help with energy because he used to play football and then not have any energy to go out on a night, which was a crying shame. My flatmate suffered with sort of hormone imbalances. And if there was ever a light bulb for NEOM, it was really me thinking, actually, everyone I know seems to suffer from one of those 4 well-being deficits, I suppose. Stress and all the ramifications of it, myself, poor sleep, lack of it, not good quality sleep, mood fluctuations or energy. And I thought, gosh, if everyone knew they were the 4 pillars for you to sort of keep in check, to look after, if everyone knew that would be a game changer. And my little blends were really, a part of that toolkit that I was creating for myself. So that was really the thought, was to start. And then I thought, of course, I was going to start this huge beauty brand, and I had no money to do that. So that was never going to happen. So that's why we started with 4 candles. We've now got about 137 SKUs today. It's always changing. But we started with 4 candles because actually I realized that to create those well-being blends, you had to do them with 100% natural plant oils. Wasn't going to work. You weren't going to have the same benefit if you were using synthetic fragrances. And I also stumbled across this fact that in the UK and in the USA, and this has barely changed in all that time, 97% of candles were made of paraffin wax and scented with synthetic fragrances. So the idea was, if we could create something that, when it burned and it filled the air with the fragrance and you breathe that fragrance in and it worked to that well-being benefit, then they could be little treatments that you could use at home. And we will very much talk to people about creating this much richer toolkit. That will be the mission. We can help with it, but also it was important to think about your food and your movement. And we'll start this well-being kind of movement, but that these four sort of tinctures that I've created, these can be the kind of bedrock of it. So it wasn't a fully formed idea, and I certainly couldn't afford to do what I really wanted to do. But I think the essence of what we were trying to do has never changed in those 18 years.
And that's honestly why I love the brand so much. For me, I learned so much about how food can affect the body and how food can impact your mood and your energy levels and all of the above. But people think so much more about that than what they're putting on their body or even breathing in. And I remember when I used to have candles on, you'd put them on and maybe your bedroom and all the windows would be shut. I'd get such a bad headache from the candles and inhalation of it. And even now, whenever I get candles, I'm so specific about looking at the ingredients. But for a lot of people, they really don't know that.
People don't know.
No.
People don't know. And, a paraffin wax candle, which, as I say, is the vast, vast majority, even luxury candles, paraffin is a crude oil derivative and you're burning that in your home. So it's a huge lack of information and knowledge about that. And I think the real irony of it is that people generally are buying candles to create a relaxing or a lovely environment. So, so I think it's really bizarre how little people know. But I still find that when it comes to the beauty industry in general, I was always inspired by the food industry. I mean, I did train as a nutritionist, as I said, at the same time as an aromatherapist. But clearly, if you're bothered about how you're feeling, what you're putting in your body, on your body, they're all important elements, and they all make a difference to how you're going to feel. So the things go hand in hand for me. But I was inspired by the food industry and how much at that time things were moving and people were becoming more educated and more aware of what they were putting in their body, and stores that were opening up and boxes that were launching to sort of to make sure that was being serviced. I don't think we've come anywhere near as far in the beauty industry. And I think we hit a really funny stumbling block when we started talking about clean beauty, which was a funny sort of label. We then launched all these brands, which were rather nice, but not really effective.
Yeah.
Then women, because it typically is women buying 87% of the household purchases, were thinking, and I get it, that face cream isn't really working as well.
Yeah.
The performance isn't there. The scent is not as sophisticated. So we sort of seem to take 2 steps forward and almost 2 steps back.
Yeah.
So it's been a bit sad with beauty. And so I always think, do your research. I'm not going to say to you, that's right, that's not right. But for goodness sake, do your research.
I agree. I think education is what's lacking. And so when it comes to candles, and for people who may not have even thought about the fact that candles could be toxic, what are the things you think people should be looking out for when they're buying? Because, there are so many candles you read and it's like natural soy wax, but then the fragrances are synthetic. Yeah. And so could you give a rundown, maybe just a couple of things that people should be looking for when they are buying to know a good quality candle and scent when they see it?
Well, the principle is very much the same as if you were buying, a home-baked organic cookie or, something made in a factory. Essentially, people are trying to cut costs where they can. They're trying to create something with a big profit margin that they've got control over how it turns out when they press the button on 100,000. I understand that from a business point of view. So you have to understand making a synthetic candle out of paraffin wax and synthetic fragrances is a lot cheaper. It's also a lot easier for me to continue producing. Mine are a pain. I have different batches of orange that looks and smells and feels and works in one way one month and not the next month. And I have to put in our standard 3-wick candles 4 bottles of essential oil. I was just going to say, I remember
you telling me that. And that was, I was so impressed by that. 4 bottles of essential oils, but high grade, high quality essential oils.
First pressed, steam distilled, the best essential oils. But so you have to understand that is a pain for understanding the principle of that. If you're trying to make money out of a business, it's much easier to spend your money on a really swanky advertising campaign and then produce. So if you understand that, then you can see where people are coming from and why, people are producing things cheaper. It is the vast majority that are paraffin wax. So I would always be asking for the base to start with. There's lots of different ways that you can make natural bases.
Soy wax base.
We use a mix. So we use a mix of soy, bees, rapeseed, different oils, different waxes. But any natural base that I prefer, like ours, because it works with essential oils in the best possible way. Yeah. But, you can use many, so a natural wax base. And then you want to be looking to see if the fragrance is 100% natural. Yes. Because that the law is that you can say, this is in the UK, I think it's in the USA, but the UK you can say a product is natural when it's 1% natural.
No way. 1%?
1%.
No.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I did not know that that's the percentage.
So if go back to my earlier, if you are trying to make as much money as possible, let's think how you can cheat the system, right? You put some natural in, you say made with natural lavender oil, 1%, then the rest is 99% synthetic. But lavender's natural, right? And they've said 1%, they've said natural lavender oil.
So easy to trick people.
So it's so easy to trick people. And there's all these kind of clever / awful things you can put in as standard, like scent boosters and scent binders, which again means you can put some amazing organic Moroccan rose oil in, for example. And then you can say
organic rose oil.
And then it's only got 1% in, and the rest is this kind of really harsh booster.
And so it's really what we think about with food, right? Like, how simple are the ingredients on the back of the package when you're reading it? In the same way with candles, because I know I remember reading that with certain candles, it's the same as secondhand smoke. Like, that's how much it's impacting your body. And it seems like such a small thing, but every single person that I know has candles in their home. And every single person that I know has some sort of scent that they have in their home, whether it's a spray or not. And I became really mindful about even what I was putting on my body in terms of perfumes. Yeah. And I stopped using perfumes and I would only use essential oils. And if you think about it, your skin is your largest organ. It takes in every single thing into your bloodstream. Your bloodstream then tries to break it down and it creates toxins in the body. So we think about carcinogenic foods and we think about carcinogenic, pollution in the world and aerosols that we're using on our body. But these things make such a difference.
And it's interesting, Radhi, because, you are an absolute guru of, wellness and living a natural, well, you are. But I think even for that sort of woman who, is sort of lower down the pecking order, shall we say, but, is sort of on that journey, I think that there's some really obvious swaps that you would make.
That doesn't make it harder for you. It's not like you're making an extra step or something more difficult. It's just making the same thing, but a better version.
And also, if you wanted to use a Dr. brand eye cream because you wanted to get rid of the wrinkles on your eyes or something, I'm making it up, right? Then fine, it's a little bit here. But when you're using a wash or a body lotion every day, then swap to something that's got the less chemicals in there. So again, I'm not saying that I would even use that on my eyes. Maybe I would. But I'm just saying that there's some obvious kind of bigger sort of things that you can do that will make more of an impact. It's a bit like with food, it's less important to buy an organic banana than it is an organic apple.
Yes, exactly.
So it's the same with beauty. I think you can start, you don't have to think, oh my goodness, I've got to throw everything out. Or I particularly love the bottle of wine.
It's like, what do you use the most of? Like for me, I have diffusers in every single room in my house. And I know that scent for me has become so important to lift my spirit. But if I'm using scents that aren't actually the 100%, they're actually not making me feel better. And even with these candles, I loved when I saw your candle where you can burn it and then you can put the oil on your body. I was like, if I can burn this and then use whatever is in there to put on my body, that's when I know it's safe. Like that's how I know that it's such a good quality product. And I love that. It's like everything should kind of be interchangeable. Like the masks that you put on your face, you can make it, you can eat it, but you can also put it on your face. And I think the cleaner we can make and simpler we can make our life. I think everything gets so complicated, whether it's products or life, and simplicity when it comes to things like this is just so important.
But it's big businesses trying to, make money at scale. And I think you have to understand, and not that I'm anti that in general, I'm just saying you've just got to realize if there's ways of people mass producing a lot of products for a cheaper price, then just think there's sometimes ways that that's done that you might not want.
It's going to compromise something for you. I loved how you spoke about the 4 pillars of life. And, I think I completely believe in that. I see when one of those pillars in my life is struggling, every part of me ends up struggling. And so I wanted to break them down, if that's okay, and ask you a few more questions about it. So I know you spoke about there was sleep, energy, mood, and stress, right? Let's do stress first, because I think, that's something which underlying, I think everybody, except for maybe our grandmas, deal with on a daily basis. From all the research that you've done and all the things that you've done with your company, what have you found have been the best techniques for people to manage their stress and on a daily basis, like practical ways?
Well, the first thing I would always say about stress, talking from personal experience, is prevention is always better than cure.
Love that, yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, many of us sort of bob along fine until we're not fine. That certainly happened to me, because putting what seems like more time into anything in life when we're so busy that you don't think that you need is counter. So I understand that. However, stress can turn up in many ways. We always talk about the stress that we sort of feel in terms of the more anxious, panicky stress. But stress can also turn up in very physical ways, inflammation or whatever it may be. So I think seeing that as something that you prevent rather than something you would, first of all, I think it's more important, but I also think you would deal with it differently than if it becomes to a panic station situation, which I think is then a whole different way. So if we talk about it as a sort of more preventative thing, I think you have to build time into your day to relax, which sounds obvious, but if I explain why, it's because if your body understands what feeling calm feels like, whether that's meditating, whether that's walking your dog, whatever it may be, then you have a sort of blueprint, an internal blueprint that your body can then
coming back to.
Exactly. And so you have to understand why, I think, for you to really believe and want to do it. And that's why it's important, is to have those little pockets during the day, and they can be, it can be when you're having the bath, locking the door and making that bath work a lot harder for you. It doesn't have to be going on an hour's hike in the morning, lovely as that is.
Yeah.
You can build those in, but it is really important for your body to be reminded in this fast-paced world what good looks like, because then your body keeps returning to that state and it keeps your barometer working, essentially.
It's so true. I think we can get used to our normality being at a high stress level and believing that that is what normality is. And I think until you strip all of that back and notice what my friend was telling me that she used to smoke weed a lot and she came off it. And she said, I didn't know what it felt like to not have cloud. Like that was normality to me. My mind was always foggy, but I was functioning like that. Only when I took it away did I realize what clarity actually felt like. And I think you're right. Until your body knows what it feels like or gives you something to want to come back to, you're never going to know what it feels like. You're never even going to crave it because you don't know what that feels like.
And again, I think we have this, we think stress is, I can't breathe. And it's not. I mean, my partner has a really high powered job and he is a super calm guy with it, which all looks from the outside fantastic. But every time, this is the weirdest thing, every time we go somewhere, he bumps an elbow or a knee, it flares up on another level. Like can't walk, right? And it's took me a year to convince him, you're stressed. He's like, I'm not stressed, because he's mentally not feeling the stress in the way that society now says stress is. His body feels it. So we've had to do a lot of things to work on.
Jay's like that too, actually.
It's
so
weird.
He has been able to train his mind to mentally cope with stress so well. So he's always like, my mind's not feeling it, but I'm feeling this thing in my chest. Or my mind's not feeling it, but my body is so tired.
Exactly.
And I've noticed that with him where because he has his meditation practice is so great. He really has found ways to mentally de-stress, but at some point, some part of your body
it
comes out.
Exactly. And he's exactly the same to me. I'm not stressed, I'm calm. And I'm like, well, yes, mentally, but you're literally banging your arm on something and your body feels it. So I think that's the other thing is see that it can come out in, and my mum gets a tightness here.
Yes. Jay used to get that too.
Yeah. So there's different ways that it's coming out. So we think of stress in a very sort of binary way, and it's not. And I think it's very much about preventing and building that in and recognizing the value, even if you're not a kind of classic high stress person, but recognizing the value of keeping those cortisol levels low. Also for longevity.
What you do at the age of 20. Yeah. I'm noticing the things I did in my 20s, you end up seeing what you've done in your 20s in your 30s. Like what you're doing right now is setting you up for 10 years time. What you do in 10 years time is setting you up for next 10 years. And I think that is something I'm starting to realize being in my 30s. I'm like, it really does make a difference. Whether it's, for me, I've spent so much time in the sun. That's the thing I'm noticing right now. The sunspots that are showing up on my face from being in the sun for the past 10 years and not looking after it. I'm like, wow, it really does show up. And so that's the same with stress. It's wearing and tearing away at you, just as old age does, but stress does the same thing. And you're going to notice it at a time where it'll be so much harder to come back from it.
Totally. And the other thing is, I think what we all want in the Western world is, here's 5 things that you can do to stop stress. Well, the reality is your 5 things will be different to mine. There'll be some commonalities, but they're different. So then what happens is you try and look up the 3 things or 5 things are, and then you go, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't like yoga. I don't want to meditate. And so then you put off the whole thing. You have to realize that you need a well-being toolkit. It will basically have they're my 4 pillars. It will, of course, include a degree of exercise or movement. It will, of course, have a large food plays a large part. And but what works for you is going to be different to me.
Definitely.
So you've got, and that will change. So you have to think, right, I'm going to respect that this well-being toolkit needs to exist so I live my best life mentally and physically. I'm going to respect that it shows up in ways that are very different to you, to me, to Jay, to my partner. If it is out of kilter, and these are the things that I'm going to sort of do, but I'm going to make sure that I get to a point with trial and error that I really love that, and it's enhancing my life by doing those things. It's not a thing I've got to do at the end of the day.
It's investing time in yourself. Like that's what it takes. What you're saying, trial and error of making the investment in yourself with time, with energy, to really understand what you need in your life. Because once you figure those basics out of, this is what I need to get good sleep, this is what I need to make sure my energy levels stay good, this is what I need for my mood. Once you figure those things out, that can be your foundation for living your life optimally.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, for me, it's less about, am I going to make it from 90 to 100?
Yeah.
It's, am I going to really squeeze the shit out of the next 10 years and enjoy them the most and get the most out of them and feel my best. So again, it's not about prolonging life. It's these are very old-fashioned constructs.
Yeah, it's the quality of it. Like, how well am I feeling every morning when I wake up, and how enthusiastic am I feeling? What's my mood with myself and with other people? Like, that's what creates quality in your life. And I think that's what. Yeah, I love that. That's what you built your company on. Those were your foundations, because I think that's what people need the most.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's why I'm really committed to doing things like this, because when we talk about wellness, it's a big responsibility, I think, to then go, oh, and I can help you with your brilliant new cookbook, or, you know, me saying swap to these natural candles that are going to help you as treatments. They're all brilliant, but it's part of a toolkit. And we all have to also signpost loads of other things that people can do, because whilst we're in this space where people still don't know and don't realize it can be a rich and varied toolkit, which has to change dependent on different times of, you know, the year, your life, etc. We have to encourage them and say, hey, there's also this and there's that, and you might like this.
Yeah. What would you say are the 3 or however many best essential oils for stress? Like, what would you recommend people go to, the scents that they should go to?
Well, we'll probably come on to it next, but I think lavender's good because lavender helps you sleep, and you're always going to be stressed if you don't get a good night's sleep. So I'm going to put that in there, even though that's a sleep essential oil. Yeah. Jasmine is fantastic. Jasmine is a really lovely essential oil for relaxing, but it's also for relaxing and de-stressing, but it's also a very optimistic, light oil. So I think it's a de-stressing oil, but it also touches on lots of other elements which help you de-stress. I really, really like jasmine. And then sandalwood is a very nice, sandalwood is a great kind of very deep, grounding essential oil.
It's a hug. Like it's a hug scent. It feels like a hug for your body.
It is. So I think, and they go nicely together, actually.
I was going to say
really
that.
nicely. They do.
I need a blend like that, actually, the 3 blend.
You should try the best-selling fragrance that I created for my own Anxiety is Real Luxury, and it's got 24 essential oils in, but it has those in.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
So I'll send you some of that, because it
sounds amazing.
Lovely, a lovely fragrance.
Yeah, I really enjoy, and you know, when I think about scents throughout my day, I really do think about them as from morning to evening, like how they're going to make me feel. And so I have a jasmine mist that I put onto my face as part of my skincare routine. The smell of that, I take a deep breath every single time I smell it. And then lavender is in one of my cleansing oils, and, you know, in the body balm that I put on. There's just so many different scents that take me through the day. And you're right, jasmine has that effect. It just makes you want to take that deep breath in.
It's interesting there. You said, we spoke about taking those moments for yourself. And even those are micro moments.
Yes.
Where you're forcing yourself to just take things a little bit slower and think about what you're putting on, and giving yourself that sort of permission to look after yourself.
And actually, I think when it comes to stress, if I think about what helps me, it's not those major moments in my day. It is those micro moments. It is those little things that keep me. It's like the little threads that take me from one bit to the next, one bit to the next. They carry me through my day. Yeah. And so sometimes my team will see me disappear, and I'll come out and I'll have, sprayed something on my face, or I'll have a face mask on halfway through the day. And it's just because it's giving me those moments of refreshment and energizing that carries me through.
Same with your cooking, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to eat McDonald's all day and then go, well, I should make an amazing Radhi curry, just to sort of balance at the end of the day. You put those spices in your food as the day goes on. You might put the cinnamon in your porridge. You might put, some spices in a soup. And so you're constantly nourishing. And then at the end of that day and the end of that week, that's become a lifestyle. And it's lovely. It's nice. They're not things as well. Another really important tip that I always say is make it nice for yourself. Make that food, have those amazing anti-inflammatory spices in, but make it so it makes the soup taste better.
Exactly.
You know, use the mist that's going to help you relax, but make it a mist that smells gorgeous that you also want to use. Don't feel that sort of somehow mitigates it or makes it less worthy. Totally. So always make those. And I think that lifts your mood as well then.
It does. And you touched on sleep with the lavender. And I'd love to go on to that now because, you know, I really appreciate creating a sleep environment. And what I mean by that is really figuring out the scents, the type of sheets I like, the pillows I like, you know, the lighting that we use. All of those things can really help to create a sacred space for you to get good quality sleep. So I would love to hear from you what your tools and tips have been for people, which you said 97, how many people struggle with sleep I think you've given me that stat
before. It's about 87% of people.
Struggle with sleep. And I've seen that with my friends, you know, people, well, first let me touch on
poor quality. So it's either getting sleep or not having a great quality.
Yeah. Tell me, like, what do you think are great ways for people to ease into creating a better sleep environment or routine for themselves?
Well, this is a massive topic, so I'll try and say it in just a few words because we did a brilliant sleep plan, which was just phenomenal, which has got our 11 golden rules for sleep. And I would always go and have a look at it on our website because it genuinely is really, really good. But one thing I would say, we don't respect our circadian rhythms at all. So what that means is we wake up and don't go outside and see the sunshine. We stay in all day and then we expose ourselves to light in the evening. That actually means that our body at a cellular level is not understanding it's morning, it's afternoon, it's evening. So because we're not respecting that, everything's going out of kilter. So you have to think, and routine at the end of the day is hugely important, but it also starts at the beginning of the day. You have to tell your body it's morning, which then stops producing melatonin and starts all of the kind of daily hormones up. So first thing in the morning, making sure that you get out and you see natural light is hugely important, hugely important. And, you know, if you measure light in terms of lux, the light that you will get outside for 15 minutes versus being all day in an office is vastly, vastly different. So going outside and seeing that natural light is really important. And of course, things like movement are really, really important as the day goes on. But having a routine for the evening is very, very important as well. And I think people think that they are either a good sleeper or a bad sleeper. And actually, there's so much more power in your hands than you believe if you really do respect that sleep hygiene from morning till evening. So evening for me is very much about creating a zone where we're going from that busy, you know, cortisol spiky day to a much calmer place in the evening. So that will, of course, include the blue lights being turned off, you know, and that's, of course, hard. We all, you know, like to sit in bed on Instagram sometimes, and that's the reality, right? But you have to realize that is problematic. It's telling your brain to wake up. That's the problem with it. It's not just making you think, oh my God, what are they doing? Or I can't believe she's done that. Or why are they there without me? All of those things. But also the blue light is also making your brain think it's morning. So it's a double whammy. You've got to tin that. You've obviously not, I say obviously, I think it's obvious, but some people still order a coffee, don't they, after dinner? You've obviously got to stop. I can't drink caffeine after 12 o'clock. I mean, I'm a bit of a lightweight. So understand what your cutoff zone is. It might be later than that. There's also a 3-hour rule, which is you shouldn't really be eating or drinking. I mean, clearly water's fine, but you shouldn't really be eating your meal that close to bed because your body's having to do a hell of a job to make sure that it digests it. So you've got to make sure your timings, you know, you're not doing all those day things really sort of late in the evening. I would then always light a Perfect Night Sleep candle. It's been such an amazing fragrance for us, and we've got such brilliant testimonials of people saying this has absolutely been a game changer. I like to have something to inhale, something to absorb on your skin, and then something to boost. That's kind of our threefold thing. I like that.
Something to inhale, something to put on your skin.
Inhale, absorb, boost. Always think of routines in that sort of way. So something to inhale would be, we do 2 sleep fragrances actually. We do one that's not got lavender in because a lot of people still don't like lavender. So we do one with chamomile, but I like the lavender one. And then I would fill the room with the fragrance, either via a pod or a candle. I always like to go in a bath. The ideal time's meant to be about 12 minutes in a bath. I know that sounds very prescriptive.
I love a bath.
But the point is not having it under 10 and then not having it, there's no benefit over 15.
And then I imagine it takes your body a good 10 minutes to get into an actual relaxed state after being on the whole day.
Yeah, exactly. And for the oils, if you're using the oils, for the oils to really penetrate. So I like to have an oily bath or a bath with essential oils in some capacity. Again, we do so many different products in Perfect Night's Sleep, whether you like bubble bath, bath foam, oils or whatever. I love to use a magnesium body butter when I get out of the bath.
I've been gifting your magnesium body butter to lots of people.
Oh, good,
yeah, I
good.
have.
It's a brilliant product, that. Absolutely brilliant. It's laced with magnesium. So many of us are deficient in magnesium.
Yes.
It's an absolute wonder mineral. I mean, it's responsible for about 360 functions in the body, magnesium. I mean, and the vast majority of us are deficient in it.
I know.
And by the way, you can process it. If you've been taking it as a tablet form, your body will just keep processing it. So you can't OD on it. No.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like, you mentioned pods and diffusers. For people who aren't used to using essential oils, there are so many different ways you can get it. And I use, I have a rollerball of a few different scents that I take with me everywhere. I have peppermint oil for my headaches. I have my lavender oil for when I travel and I go onto a plane. But then there's also the scents which are pure essential oils you can diffuse in a diffuser. Yeah. Give us a few different ways that you recommend people take them in, because even through your body butters, people are, absorbing it through their skin into their body.
Well, it doesn't matter how you get a fragrance in an atmosphere.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter at all. Candle, a reed diffuser, a pod, you'll have a personal preference on how strong you want it. You'll also, you might want to, the good thing with a pod is it creates fragrance in seconds.
Yeah.
So, and also everyone's room size is different, right?
Yeah.
So our 3-wick candle, we actually developed with that amount of essential oil in the 3 wicks. So it would fill an average size living room in about half an hour. So that gives you some sort of guidance. But as long as, whatever your budget is or whatever your room size is, any of those elements, you just as long as you're breathing it in.
A specific
way
that's better than the other.
There's not. And then when it comes to putting things on the body, again, you can we do pure essential oils. You could put them in a carrier oil if you wanted. Magnesium body butter, that's great. We have a body oil. I love our body oil.
I love a body oil massage. That's another part of my sleep routine that I really love. I think, self-soothing and self-touch is so important to create, to allow your nerves to know. It's almost like hugging your own body. Yeah. And I love massage. I do Abhyanga, which is like, self-body massage, but it's such an important part of my evening to de-stress my body, because I notice the places when I'm then going through and massaging my body with oil, I'm noticing the places where I'm holding tension, and I do it with essential oils and with the carrier oil that I put onto my body, but it really does make a difference because I feel it, kind of moving through my body.
And body oil's got a bit of a bad rap. People think it's greasy. Well, it's only greasy when it's a mineral oil and it sits on the skin.
Right.
If you're using a natural oil, it will actually penetrate into the skin.
Yeah. I know my body, I wake up and my body feels like a baby. Yeah. But once you use the oil, it's such a nice feeling to wake up like that. Yeah. We touched on melatonin. You were saying, obviously to create that in our body. There is such a reliance in the world right now on taking external melatonin, of taking tablets. I know so many friends who have been hooked on it. And, I would love to hear your perspective on it, because for me, whenever I hear people taking it, I know that they get to a point where they hit a wall where it no longer helps them. And that's because their body is not producing it itself. It almost takes out it basically tells your body, listen, you don't need to do any work right now to get yourself melatonin. I'm going to give it all to you. And so I feel like it stops the functioning of it. So what's your view on melatonin versus taking magnesium? Because I know both can be used for relaxation at night.
Well, I've never taken melatonin.
Yeah, me neither.
I never have. I'm generally quite a good sleeper, actually. So, but I have understood the principles of being able to have and create good sleep for quite a while. So I don't know. Listen, it must be awful if you are a really serious insomniac. And I've got to be honest and say, I don't know how that feels. So that must be really, really bad. However, it is widely known, as you say, that melatonin is going to ultimately, cause you more problems. And I do think in our findings, especially when we did when we created our sleep 11 golden rules, most people didn't think good sleep was in their control.
Wow, yeah.
They felt that they were
just bad sleepers.
Just a bad sleeper. Their mum had been a sleeper, their uncle had been a bad sleeper, it was in their family. And they didn't understand the whole piece about the circadian rhythm, and that it was also not just about getting to sleep at that point, but it was about really starting in the morning. So I think it makes sense that you would at least learn that and try that and then see where you are. Because otherwise you might get some relief, but two steps forward to take three back doesn't sound like a good
I think
trade-off
you're not helping
to me.
yourself long term, are you? When you're taking anything like that, naturally it gives you that remedy for the night, but it doesn't help your actual rhythm of sleep for the, for longevity of it.
Exactly. And a lot of the sleep experts that I've spoken to say also think about your sleep over a week. Don't always berate yourself if you wake up and you say had a really bad night's sleep, because sometimes you can get on this big vicious circle of I had a bad night's sleep, and so then you drink more caffeine to wake up the next day, and then you take something that night rather than thinking,
cycle.
You're not going to die. What's going to happen? You've had a terrible night's sleep. Fine. Well, if you had 3 hours last night, or if you had an hour, then, if you get a night's sleep the night after or the night after, think about it in the week. So I think sometimes changing your way of thinking can be helpful.
You know what's really helped me, and I recommend this to a lot of my friends now, is if you do go through periods of having bad sleep, start tracking your sleep. I've been using the Whoop for a while now. And I've used lots of other devices here and there. I was really against actually using devices on my body at night. But I think for short periods of time, it's helped me so much to see what type of sleep I'm having, to then the recovery that I'm having, to the morning of what type of workout I'm going to have. Like, sleep affects everything. I notice when I don't get enough sleep, after looking at whatever my results come out to be, I end up changing the way that I'm working out because I'm putting more strain on my body, producing more cortisol in my body, feeling stressed and tired the whole day. And so even if you're someone who doesn't use monitoring devices like much at all, I recommend, if you do end up having difficult sleep patterns, at least have a look at what's happening. Because I think when you end up getting information in front of you, you can only go from information. Because otherwise you're trying to figure out, there's so many variables that it could be. And so, I think tracking has been really important, especially for me when I'm traveling and stuff a lot. I find it so difficult to figure out, am I tired because I've been moving around a lot, or am I just not getting good quality sleep?
And I think you've got to ask yourself whether that adds to your anxiety or it helps. For you, it seems like it helps you.
Yeah, I think information
and it does
helps
for me. It does for me, but I know there are those people that then go, oh, you're giving me another piece of information that's been, that's not good, and therefore. So again, it's just believe in yourself a bit and what works for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're not able to tune in and really hear what your body's telling you, sometimes for me, anything takes me out of stress if I have the knowledge for it, even if it's something that's terrible. Even if something is saying, you've only had 1 hour's good sleep, at least I have information in front of me that's being given to me. I feel like knowledge and information is my way to take away stress in my life.
It's definitely mine.
But I understand what you're saying, because I do have friends who are like, oh my gosh, it says I've only had 3 hours sleep. I don't think I could do anything the whole day today. So I think it depends how it affects you. But for short periods of time, I do recommend it to people, because I think it's a game changer in understanding your body. Okay, next pillar. The next pillar that I wanted to talk about was your energy levels. I think with as much as sleep can affect your energy, I think there are so many other things that affect your energy. And one thing I've really been trying to monitor in my life is energy leakage. And what I mean by that is, what am I doing mentally and emotionally that's impacting my energy levels?
Huge.
And I've noticed whether it's conversations I'm having with people and what they're about makes such a difference. Am I gossiping about people?
So much.
Am I talking about things that are lower frequency that's actually not fueling me? Like, I try to think of everything in my day as either this is fueling me or it's draining me. And we're going to have a balance of both in our life, right?
Yeah.
But there are so many micro things that you can do throughout your day to make sure that balance is not off. So you're not doing too many things that are draining you. At least be even. At least have the things that are fueling you and draining you, so you end up at an even playing field.
Well, also the things that if you're choosing to go out for dinner with friends,
yes,
make sure
what it's going to do.
Yeah. That's not like a work thing. I mean, you might have to have a meeting with someone or a boss who is a bit tedious.
Yeah.
That's your work.
Exactly.
We all have to do that. But if you're going out, don't choose friends who you behind their back, or you think they are, because you've chosen that. So but I think that's something that, you know, a lot of people fall into, and I absolutely agree. That kind of competitiveness comes at certain times in people's lives, doesn't it? Particularly
who are you spending time with?
Exactly.
It makes such a difference to your energy levels.
I agree. Auditing that at all times is absolutely key. And knowing what good looks like as well. I think
knowing what good looks like. And that comes into play with what we were talking about before, right? Like when you understand what good quality energy feels like from people, you'll notice when people are draining you, or when things are being, pressure's being put on you.
And time is short. There shouldn't be any sort of mindful choices that you have with people or activities in your life that you're not really into.
Yeah.
You know, the bar should be high where that's concerned, because you have got to compromise when it comes to tidying the house, or, you know, dealing with a child having a tantrum, or a boss who's awkward. So good Lord, don't choose for it when it comes to a hobby or a friendship or whatever else. Make sure that those are, you know, as much as possible, A1 plus. So I'm totally with you where that's concerned. And I've absolutely ended up, you kind of go through life and then you think, there's barnacles that have grown here.
Yeah, we think about all the things that give us energy with food, like we said, and with exercise. We know that they boost our serotonin levels, but people do too. Like, we're human beings. We want that energetic connection with people. And having, even if it's just a few people in your life that boost your energy when you're around them, it's so necessary.
Definitely. And I think finding things that replenish you, and knowing, I'm like, everyone always thinks I'm an extrovert, but actually I'm an introvert, which means you get your...
I am too.
Your energy from being on your own, and you plug yourself, and then I want to go out. I don't want to be on my own for 2 weeks, and then I want to go out and speak to people. But I have to have that, and so I suppose knowing that about yourself, and
the
then
same. I go to events, and I'm like, one night, I've been out, I've been around people. I'm like, I need 2 days of being completely by myself, and then I re-energize, and then I'm ready to go back out again.
I have a little saying, and I'll say it's my boyfriend, and I'll go TMH, and it means too many humans.
Oh, I like that.
So it's like kind of it's code for whether we're in a place or we've been at a party going on too long or whatever else.
Yeah.
TMH.
It's time to get out of here. That's really good. I feel like that's going to become a thing. TMH. I'm going to use it too. What are the oils? Because I have found great solace in essential oils when I'm feeling low energy, especially when I get to midday.
Yeah.
And I need a pick-me-up. For me, peppermint oil has been a game changer. It has been such a great scent if I'm feeling sluggish, if even my digestion feels a bit sluggish, I'm putting it around my belly button, I'm putting it on my forehead, and it really energizes me. What are other scents that you recommend? Because, you know, I think about that in the morning. I have different scents that I want to wake me up in the morning, and I have citrus scents then, and you know, that type of thing. I would love to hear your top 3 for energy.
I love eucalyptus.
Oh yeah,
because I think it gives you energy. But there's 2 different ways. Lemon for me is more of a physical energy.
Yeah.
So, but the eucalyptus is more of a mental energy. So eucalyptus, pine I can use in the same way. I don't love the fragrance. I have to use a tiny bit of it. Quite often we'll make kind of a green sort of, a little tincture of green, which would be eucalyptus, have some pine in there, might be a tiny bit of sandalwood in, could have some lemon. Yeah, and that will give you a real kind of mental focus. We have a really brilliant fragrance called Focus the Mind, actually, which I thought I really wanted something that was that kind of, right, you've got to get your head down here and just work for 3 hours. That real kind of, your kids are doing A-levels. And that's a very greeny, you know, you can have some lime sometimes works quite nicely in that as well.
Yes, I like that.
But I think eucalyptus is one of my favourites for that.
That's a great scent for that. Yeah, energy, eucalyptus. I need to try that one out. I think I've been sticking to peppermint oil for too long. I might be becoming immune to it.
Well, mix it up and just kind of like think of it like a little bouquet, like if you were creating, you know, in a meal or something.
Yeah, and you're right. It's experimenting with that too, like seeing which scents suit you, which scents you end up, you know, actually responding to. Because some scents I smell, I'm like, oh, this is all right. It doesn't really do much for me. But then there are other scents that really give me the boost or the relaxation that I need. But
it's like you need different things, don't you? I quite like sometimes, and you decide you might want to put some citrusy scents with it to make it kind of very light and fresh and sparkly and upbeat. But then sometimes if you've got some serious work to do, you might put those kind of woody notes with it, and it gives you that kind of real focus. But sometimes it's kind of a grounding focus.
Yeah, I have sandalwood. Sandalwood is what I burn in the morning for my meditation. That is my meditation smell more than anything else. Yeah. And I have to say it has been, and I love creating connection between scent and what I'm doing. I think that's another way. It's almost creating these almost mechanisms, like you were saying, where you know that when you're smelling this, this is what's happening. It's creating a routine or a channel
neural
for your mind. A pathway, exactly.
And I think it's a lovely thing to do, in a home, to create that environment for you, your partner, your children, your grandparents. Yeah. It's a really nice way of kind of creating a ritual and an energy. Exactly. Yeah. I like doing it for dinner parties.
Me
and that
too.
Kind of thing, zoning different parts of the house as well.
Yeah, you're so right. And I think there's a huge connection. If you think about scent when you meet someone, or I know the smell of my mum, like as soon as I smell that, there's a serotonin comes out, I relax, my whole body completely changes. Same with when I smell her food. I'm like, okay, I'm home, and I feel that. And I think for me, I've created those connections between scents too. So now even if you're far away from home, you smell something that you've put on. I think that must be so amazing for kids to do as well. Like when kids go away to college or university or whatever, if they've had a smell that brings them back home and earths them.
We have so many people who I get messages all the time from people saying, oh, my child went off on his first away camp or something and took the pillow mist, because we sell more in packs of 4 of our pillow mist than singularly, because people buy them. I suppose a lot of them buy just as a bulk buy, but to have like mum and the dad and children or whatever. And that's a really nice thing, I think, whatever that routine is. But we talk about self-care being something that we're having to now teach adults, because this is a new thing. But for us to be teaching younger generation to just to have that in it, I think that's quite powerful.
Yeah, it is. I know when I walk down the street sometimes, my dad used to wear Old Spice, that scent. And whenever someone walks past me or I get a whiff of it, I'm like, oh, that's so nice. But it's what scents can take you back to memories.
So, they
connect you to everything.
Do you still fancy the men that wear the links?
Oh yeah. You know what? Links. I can't do links anymore. Oh, Links Africa. That was the one when I was younger.
Wasn't it? Exactly.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Scents are a beautiful way to connect memories as well. I really do appreciate that. I don't remember dates, I don't remember times, but I can remember scents and I can remember the food I ate. And that's pretty much what I base a lot of my life on.
Yeah, I can't date my children but I remember where all their clothes came from.
Yeah, exactly. The next pillar is mood. I think that's the last pillar that we spoke about. And I've studied, like we spoke about, spices and food and the impact that it has on mood. Same with the vitamins that we're having and the minerals that we're having. There's so much that we can do to change our mood. And what you said about sleep, I think people have the same thing for mood, where they think, a lot of people feel like if I'm just in a low mood, there's not much I can do about it. It just is. I'm feeling this way. There's not much I can do to get myself out of it. It's going to go away itself. But actually, I'd say scent and also many of the other things that we do, there's an ability to shorten that time span that we are feeling in a low mood for.
Totally.
And so what would you say, again, are uplifting scents or things that you think people can do to really help elevate their mood during their day?
Absolutely. I mean, and people always sort of lump this with, this is not about depression, right? No. That's a very different thing.
Definitely.
This is about sort of very daily, getting yourself in a funk, having a blue day. And I think by taking control of that, thinking that there are things you can do, whether it's, making yourself a lovely cake or lighting a lovely candle, it's just nice having that control, isn't it?
Definitely.
Mood boosting fragrances. I think orange is a really underrated essential oil, which is lovely. Mandarin, slightly different, slightly sweeter. Chiang Mai can kind of work in that way as well. I really love that. But those orangey sort of fragrances are uplifting in a very sort of, how do I say it? I love tuberose, but tuberose is a very sexy, luxurious essential oil, which also is very uplifting. But orange is almost kind of like, you know, the little things are the big things, happiness oil. And I think the fact that it is fruity and sparkling,
it's a bit festive
helps.
as well. Like I think it kind of brings a bit of festivity throughout your year if you're using it. Yeah.
But also I think it makes you, because it is quite a, you know, it's quite a basic fragrance. It doesn't make you think, oh, I need to have something really extravagant to be happy. So orange and all sorts of forms of orange I think really work very well. Nice. Mimosa is a lovely fragrance.
Oh, what is that?
Mimosa, it's like, you know, those little yellow tiny flowers.
Yeah.
Seen them, they're very pretty. That is a lovely, uplifting, very light, bright, sparkling fragrance. I love that for loads of things, actually. We put that in our happiness fragrance, and I think that is a really,
I use that a lot in the house.
Yeah, that's lovely. And so you can put that with orange. So that's really, really nice. I have to say I'm not a vanilla fan, but vanilla, the problem with vanilla, the only thing I will say is vanilla is generally, you smell it in a very synthetic way.
Yes.
So a bit like a cake where you put, you know, it's a big difference between using a proper vanilla pod and, you know, synthetic vanilla fragrancing. So vanilla is, and it's worth people knowing, it is a mood boosting. It's quite calming, but it is all about mood. It sometimes can be tempered quite nicely with some sandalwood.
What were the women's sprays that we used to?
Oh, yeah.
The ones from Superdrug.
Body Shop, was it? The Body Shop ones,
they were just such a deep, like musky
it's
vanilla
not for
smell.
me. I'm just saying it because I think a lot of people do like vanilla, and it's worth them knowing it sits between being a mood boosting and a de-stressing oil. That is its property. And if you quite like it but are nervous of that sort of old fashioned sort of 80s, 90s synthetic version, try it with a little bit of sandalwood, because it just makes it a bit more earthy.
Yeah, I see vanilla being that, actually, because I think even when you think about it in baking or when I'm cooking something, it has this grounding. It's a heavier scent, I think. It's like a heavier grounding scent. Oh, nice. Okay, I need to try the vanilla and sandalwood together now.
Nice. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so after all that, you've been in this, 15 years, the wellness industry?
18.
More than 18 years.
Yeah.
From all of that and all the things that you've tried and tested, what would you say are your 3 non-negotiables for your own wellness? Because you travel a lot as well, by the way. You travel a lot. You do, you work so hard. What are your 3 non-negotiables?
Gosh, getting it down to 3 is super hard. But let me say, getting out in nature is a really big thing. Yeah. I know we talk about it a lot at the moment, but I think people think that's like going on a pounding walk through a forest, and it can be. I have a horse. It's my greatest passion, luxury. When I'm there, I'm nothing other than the horse rider. I'm not me and my work capacity or anything else. And so I think whatever that might look like for you, being outside is really, really important. And I love city life. I love the buzz of London, but that is really, really important. So walking the dog, being outside is hugely important. Food is a massive part of my, life. I am a big foodie and I'm really quite greedy. So,
me too.
Yeah, so I think probably that was partly what inspired me to become interested in nutrition, because I was like, I'm going to eat this much.
I need to know what I'm putting in me.
Exactly. Well, otherwise I'll be the size of a house, quite frankly. So food, cooking is a big part of my life. And latterly it's become more so, I think, but connecting, as you said before, with the right people. And that's a small circle that I hold very dear and I love hard, and being quite strict about no, or thank you, I'll be quite pleasant, but you're not in my A box.
Yeah.
And keeping that A box kind of really, tight, because I get such huge nourishment from that. And of course there's, family, members are in that, but that, I think, knowing what that looks like, knowing who's in it, and knowing, the amount you're going to give back to those and how important that is for you, that's become,
those are great non-negotiables. Yeah, I really like them. I have a few quick fire questions to kind of round this off. I'm going to ask you. You don't have to think too deeply about them, but what's something a lot of people don't know about you that you want them to know?
I'm quite tough.
Yeah, I feel that though.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think people think because I run a wellness business, I'm like floating around in white linen and
I know what you
doing yoga for 3 hours a day. And it's like, no, this is working at NEOM is the best fun ever, but it's really tough.
Yeah.
And I'm quite tough. And I hate that there's that kind of
the view of it.
connotation that, you know, we're just sort of all a bit whimsical and a bit, it doesn't matter. It might upset you. You know, no.
So just know, Nicola is tough, okay? She may be the biggest wellness brand in London, but she is tough as a cookie. Or not, well, sometimes a vegan cookie can be extremely tough if it's not made right. What emotion do you find difficult to deal with and why? Of all the emotions out there.
I don't like being sad.
Yeah.
I really don't like being sad.
How do you release emotion, by the way? What's your method of your go-to?
I'm not much of a crier.
Are you not? Yeah.
I'm not much cry. I talk it through. I think I talk it through with people that I trust. You know, I will talk it through. I will have therapy and then not, and then have therapy and not. I kind of go to therapy a bit, not for a problem, but it's almost like going to the theatre for me. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's so
I didn't know that came out of me.
That's so interesting. And I learn things just generally about life. So that's helpful. But yeah, I think my daughter used to say from being really little, when she was in trouble, she used to go, Mummy, let's not talk about the bad things. Let's talk about the good things. And actually, even now, I think we are a bit probably push that to one side. Come on, let's have a nice night. Maybe.
Yeah, fair. When was the last time you had a really good cry?
I fell out with my son and I had a good cry.
Yeah, I do that a lot with me and my mum she's like my best friend. But at the same time, she's the person naturally that I can snap at the most or have disagreements with. Yeah. And so I get really upset with myself when I do that, especially now. Yeah, it really does matter. What kind of crier are you? So I have made categories of criers, okay? So there's 5 different types. There's the loud, ugly cry. We all know what that looks like. It's it's not cute. The breathless, where you really can't hear. You know when children do, where you just can't hear what they're saying, but there's a lot of breath happening. There's the sniffler and snotty, where there's water coming out of every, hole in the body. The high-pitched, where it's just they just go up a few octaves.
I think that's me.
And then the I'm not crying, you're crying cry, where it's like I have something in my eye and, I'm not really crying. Or the silent crier, where it's very composed. And
no, it's not that.
Yeah.
So I'll try to start with the penultimate one.
Yeah, I'm not crying, you're crying.
I'll try to start with that. Then I think I'll go to the one up from that.
The high-pitched.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because when you're crying, you try and explain why you're crying. It was just because.
Mine's always like, I think I'm coming on my period. That's literally mine for everything. I'm like, let me just check. I think it must be the time of my period. And then it can't be every week because I'm a crier. I cry all the time. So for me, I'm like, that's that excuse that needs to change now. Well, thank you so much for being on. I feel like this is going to be such a great one for people to learn the small things they can adapt to make such a big difference.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. And for anyone and I'm saying this genuinely, I've looked hard and long time to find scents and candles to fill my home with that feel uplifting and calming and all the things that you want to feel and make a home into. And I have to say NEOM has been a really great tool for that in different parts of my home. So I really recommend you check them out. And I'm so excited to have you in the US now. UK to the US.
I know, and I can come over here more.
Yeah.
Lots of holidays. Thank you. Thank you, my love. Thank you.